So today we're talking about the 1987 film Near Dark. And you may not know it. Well, I guess you kind of get it from this logline. But if you didn't read this logline and you just went into the movie, it is a vampire movie, but they never mention the word vampire in the movie, which I kind of dug, which is very cool. So first of all, Kathryn Bigelow. I believe this was her first feature. Let me just sort by release date. Earliest first. Oh, okay. I think that's a short. This is her second feature after The Loveless, which I'd never heard of. Is that Willem Dafoe? Sheesh. Okay. But yeah, her second feature, and a lot of the cast people mention is borrowed from Alien because she was involved with James Cameron at the time. And yeah, so we have characters such as Lance Henriksen, who is in Alien. Then we have Bill Paxton and Jeanette Goldstein, who were all in Alien, which is cool to see. But this movie as a whole, it is pitched as a Western vampire movie. And a lot of the commentary I've been hearing around this movie is that at the time in 1987, she really wanted to make a Western movie. But Western movies were kind of phasing out in the 80s, and horror movies were way, way more popular. And so she decided to merge the genres and have a horror vampire Western movie. And I think the blend of the genres is one of the strongest things about this movie. Basically, the general premise is very much a Western, and it's very simple. A lot of Western narratives are simple. They're based on like revenge, or just like something bad happens and somebody has to make things right, blah, blah, blah. So Adrian Pastar's character, here, let me just find the character name here. Caleb. The beginning of the movie is a bit just like, okay, roll your eyes. So he's just a country boy hanging out with a bunch of his pals, and he sees this lady walk out of a store eating an ice cream cone. And his friend's gonna go hit on her, but then he's like, no, this is me. Okay, first of all, why is she eating an ice cream cone in the middle of the night? Like, please. Or like, who's selling ice cream in the middle of the night? Plot hole, right there. But yeah, he goes over to talk to her, and he's just being very aggressive and like annoying. Like, yeah, he's literally like, oh, I'll drive you home, as they're in the middle of a country road, if you give me some. And he's like holding the keys in front of her. It's like, dude, that's just like coercion. So honestly, I didn't like him that much, his character, but okay, whatever. He's the protagonist. And then after that, she goes to kiss his neck, but actually bites him. And yeah, there's no like elongated teeth in this movie to mention them as vampire either, which is cool, because at the beginning there is a bit of mystery of like, oh, what is she up to? Why is she monologuing about the stars in the sky? I honestly did like her monologue where she's like, oh, you see, let's look up at the sky, and he's just like focused on her. He's like, oh yeah, what about the sky? And he's like trying to like hold her, and she's like, oh, the light from the stars takes like 10 million years to get here, and in 10 million years I'll still be here and you'll be gone. And he's like, wow, very interesting. Come on, come home with me. Okay, I'm a very science fiction guy, and I also do like looking at the stars. I was like, yeah, stars are pretty cool. I vibed with the monologue. Yeah, her lines were really good. And it's one of those things where if you look back on the movie after seeing it and knowing the context of how the vampires work in this movie, you look back on some of the lines she said earlier, because there was one line. He goes up to her and he's like, oh, can I have a bite? And she laughs and she's like, huh, bite, because she's a vampire. So it's like a subtle hint. It's kind of just like a wordplay, but yeah. He becomes a vampire. I think, yeah, so that's kind of the intro. I'll just go full on into spoilers, so if anybody hasn't seen it, hey, just, yeah, avoid the spoilers here. He then tries to go home, but is, burning up. He's smoking, literally, as he's trying to go home, and then a drive-by RV just scoops him up in front of his family's face, which I thought was hilarious. Imagine, you're just like a little girl on your ranch. You see this RV drive up, steal your brother, who you probably think is drunk, and he's just gone. And then they go into the RV, and it's very dark, and you're meeting this cast of characters. And I think my favorite part about this movie is how dark it is. Not thematically, really, because it is quite a lighthearted, horror movie. But inside of the RV, they've like light-proofed it because they don't want the sun coming in. And it is very, very dark. I don't know if maybe it's just the copy that I watched, but they just they absolutely amped up the darkness. You really have to focus in on what's happening and focus on the shadows. And that's also a really good visual thing about this movie. Like this shot up here is awesome, these silhouettes. I'll be honest, I have not seen very many vampire movies, and I know at the time vampire movies were such a big thing. And this one came out like at the same time as the movie The Lost Boys, which I've never seen or really heard too much about. But it's very similar vibe. Very similar plot apparently, and The Lost Boys was just such a bigger movie, and it made so much more money. It made like over $30 million, and this one, like, I don't even know if it broke even with its original budget, unfortunately. But I think looking back in retrospect, this one has become much more of a cult classic compared to Lost Boys. Lost Boys has a similar vibe, but you liked it less. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's just a sign of just how the movie's aged. Yeah, a lot of the commentary I heard was that, yeah, Lost Boys was way more popular then, but now people are realizing the merits of Near Dark, whether it be because it was Catherine Bigelow, who's now won an Oscar, or just because, yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it's shot very well. The themes are, they're pretty fun, and it's easy to follow story and everything. So, and yeah, the blend of the genres is just, it's just so fun. And we meet all of the clan. And I think why this movie works so well is because the cast of characters is so fun. So just looking at all these characters here. So we'll go through the characters one by one here. So Caleb, the main character, he was honestly one of the worst characters. He was pretty unlikable. He's just like this asshole cowboy who just tries to coerce girls into sleeping with him. But when he was just like trying to figure out everything, like all these changes happening, he was becoming a vampire, his performance was pretty good, so I'll give him that. But he was just the least, like, he's the main character. He suffers from main character syndrome, where he's just not as not as unique, as quirky, as you might say. That word feels a bit wrong there, but he doesn't have much oomph to him. So then we move into Jenny Wright, and she played May. And her character was okay as well. I think it's just a bit of a weak female character, where it's like, yeah, she's just the love interest. But I did like some of the details where you see these different vampires at different stages of them being a vampire, because they're immortal, and so they've been vampires for a certain amount of time. And you can tell that she still has some hope to just like life in general being a vampire. Whereas some of the other characters, like Lance Henriksen's character, he's just like, oh, I've been a vampire so long, I'm done with this. If he's not going to kill for himself, we just got to get him out. That scar on his face looked pretty cool. I'll say that. And yeah, he was great. He was just no nonsense. Just, yeah, deadbeat since the Civil War. Yeah. So, yeah, he was pretty fun. I liked him a lot. And Bill Paxton, okay, everybody who's seen this movie knows that he was the best character in the movie. He was so good. He was just like, yeah, Bill Paxton, asshole, vampire, just he's like in the middle of May and the older guy, where it's like he's just like, all right, I know I'm a vampire living forever, there's really no point to this, so I'm just gonna have a good time. And the scene with him in the bar was so fun, where he just absolutely dices the guy with his boot, and just like there's just like him covered in blood, wiping the blood away from his face. He was so fun. He just has a bunch of like he kind of provides the comedy to the movie, but okay, I don't want to say it's not over the top. It is a bit over the top, his performance, but he just sells it. He's just the man. Rest in peace to the man. Yeah, he was just so good. And when I saw this poster, I was debating, it's like, this is Bill Paxton, right? This is Bill Paxton's character. Pretty sure. Because Caleb had short hair. Yeah, that's Bill Paxton's character. Yeah, so we had him, and then we also have Jeanette Goldstein. She was good. She was kind of like the more stoic mother character. It's like the whole family isn't actually a family. They're just, coming together because of their, similarities of being a vampire. And so they're forming this kind of pseudo family. And she was good. She was kind of like the no nonsense, stoic, foil to the older guy, to Lance's character. And she was good, but she didn't have much to do, which is a shame because, yeah, it is like Catherine Bigelow is this great female director, but both of her female characters were kind of just like they really did take a back seat to some of the male characters, which was unfortunate. But she had a cool look to her. Her hair was awesome. And then Tim Thomerson, who was this? Oh, he was the father. He was fine. He was just, generic Western father. He was, whatever. And then Joshua John Miller, who played the kid. His character had a bit of, like, ickiness to him. Yeah, that's him, Joshua John Miller. Where it's like, he's this now older person stuck in this younger person's body, and he still wanted to get with Caleb's younger sister, which is, like, maturity level. He's probably, like, like 80 years old, and this girl is actually just, like, 13. Which is a bit weird. But at the same time, it's like, if you bite her when she's younger, then eventually she's gonna age, but it's still just weird. But I guess, vampire logic, whatever. They're pretty immoral. I did think it was funny when they were all playing cards and he was just, like, smoking. And it seemed like production was like, okay, don't actually smoke this cigarette. Just, like, twiddle it in your mouth. Because it was pretty clear that he, like, didn't know what to do with this cigarette in his mouth, which was kind of funny. But his character was... It kind of had a very, like, a classic Fable to his character arc. Where it's like, he's the one longing for love, albeit love with a minor, which was, yeah, a little weird, like I said. But his character's like, his immortalness, when he saw that girl, he was like, okay, this is going to be it. I'm going to have her, or I'm just going to, like, die. And he dies. But he's when, near the end, when... she escapes the car of the vampires, and he runs out, and he's starting to burn up. He's like, oh, come back. You're my one chance. Where it's like, come on, man. I'm sure somebody else, There's probably some weirdos out there who would love being a vampire. Somebody has a vampire fetish. It's true. It's just a fact. Somebody does. Should I skip to the end? Okay, no, I'm just going to go a bit from the middle. So it's like, yeah, so I really like the stuff with Caleb becoming a vampire, everything. It was very dirty, like... the point of his acting that was pretty good is when he's acting all scared and he doesn't know what's happening. His face is just absolutely, like, completely dirty. That stuff was great. I loved the scene where him and I keep forgetting her name, May. They're in this truck, and she's like, "All right, you gotta kill this guy," and they're just talking. And this truck driver seems so nice. He's, like, very conversational, and she's like, "Caleb, man, just come on, get it over with." And then eventually she has to do it when they leave the truck. That was good stuff. That was good stuff. But yeah, poor truck driver. But hey, for vampires, it's like, it's part of business. He has to learn. Or get out. So they do that, and then they go to the bar, which I kind of already talked about that scene, which was pretty fun. Then that's kind of just like them having a night out. Vampires' night out, where it's like, hey, let's go just absolutely destroy these people at a bar. And again, that was, Caleb's other chance to, like, kill somebody at a bar, and he just couldn't take it. Yeah, that scene was fun. Showed off Bill Paxton a lot, which was a good time. And then they go to this motel. The person at the motel reception recognizes the older guy and then calls the police. And then you have this shootout. Very typical Western shootout, which is nice to see. And, yeah, the shootout was pretty cool, especially with, like, the bullet holes making these very, like, distinct lines of sun, which was fun to see, and then just getting absolutely toasted. They had to get the car, run it into the motel, all jump into the car, try to, like, block all the sun once they're going out. And then, oh yeah, they have the motel where the family is conveniently staying at. They have that showdown where the sister is brought to the motel room, then the dad comes and they're like, all right, you got to kill your family. And he's like, no, but they're my family, please. And then so they leave. And, like, everything was so fun up to then. I was like, okay, where's this going? And then he just sees this random medical equipment in the back of his dad's truck, and he's like, hey, want to try a blood transfusion? And then he just unvampires himself by his dad giving him a blood transfusion. And that just, like, the movie was going so good. And, like, there still is a lot of merit to it. I did like the movie, but that just sucked. It's so convenient and so unfortunate. You have the final showdown. He's finally a human again. he goes, or the vampires are trying to come get him. They capture his sister. And then he tries to go get them on horseback, but the horses are scared of the vampires, so horse runs away. And so they have the showdown on the street, which was fun. May, she jumps out of the car with his sister, saving her. The little boy vampire runs out because he wants to be with his sister, and he just catches on fire in honestly some really, really bad visual effects fire. The other fire stuff you could tell was real. Like when they were running to the car from the motel, that was real, and that was really, really cool. And then this close-up shot of this kid with these fake-looking flames all over his face, being like, no, come back. And then, what I was saying earlier, you know what happens when vampires are left in the sun? They just explode. He just exploded. That was crazy. I didn't expect it. He just exploded. And then the parents, they're in the car. They're trying to like shield themselves, and they're like, well, this looks like the end of the line. And then they're in the car, and they just explode. Since when do vampires explode? I just thought it was like, oh, it's like Caleb didn't do anything to directly kill them. The sun just literally cooked them, and they absolutely got incinerated. And so I thought that was a little convenient as well. And just like them having their like burn marks on the face is a cool visual. Them hiding under the blankets. I remember her hiding under the blanket. She has burn marks. It's like, show them like melting in the sun or like suffering, just like being absolutely seared by the sun. But no, they just explode. Oh, and I didn't mention Bill Paxton's character. Caleb tries to run him over with the truck, but then he climbs on the truck. And then he just like hotwires the truck to explode because that truck driver was teaching him some truck stuff earlier. And then the truck explodes. Catherine Bigelow was just like, how do we kill off these vampires if they're immortal? They all have to explode somehow. Yeah, I do have my gripes with the ending. He gives her a blood transfusion. She becomes human again. Yippee. This one girl that you saw randomly on the street and you tried to coerce her into being with you, you're finally with her. Hey, all worked out in the end, you creepy bastard. Some of the middle, like, okay. So now talking about the whole plot, it's like that ending definitely did let me down, but some of the stuff in the middle is just so fun. Like, yeah, like I said, I think to highlight and wrap up everything, the shadowy visuals, like it's so dark. It's like the fun vibe of all the characters. The characters are all very distinct, very fun. Like, yeah, them being in the truck or in different cars and they have to like sunproof all the cars. Them going to bars and just massacring people. Bill Paxton stands out. And the way it was shot was kind of like a Western, a lot of landscapes. So the blend of the genres was so fun. The contrasty cinematography, good time. In general, it's just like, yeah, it's a fun horror movie, very unique. You don't really see that blend of genres too often. All the performances were fun. So yeah, I really did enjoy it. I gave it a 3.5 here, which is like, yeah, it's a good movie. Glad I watched it. I really didn't know much about it before going into it, so I'm glad I checked it out. So yeah, that's pretty much that's all I have to say about Near Dark. Glad I watched it.